Welcome to the Empowered Marriage Podcast. Fantastic to have you on board wherever you are listening. My name is Helen Harris and I'm the host of this podcast, and you're listening to podcast 71. I want to go back a little step. What is empowered marriage? So I think in 3 words. An empowered marriage is connection, a closeness, and passion. And when you have those ingredients, that can make for a long-term relationship. If you've listened to any of these podcasts, you would know that I offer counselling, coaching and psychotherapy. And what's the biggest thing that comes in my door is relationships start to lose their spark. They start to get a little bit boring, stagnant. There can be a bit of conflict. There's a whole mixture of different things. So that brings me to what I'm going to talk about today. It's keeping your relationship turned on, and that's podcast 71. What comes in my door a fair bit of the time is couples, and generally they come in together when we're on the subject of keeping that passion alive in the relationship. They talk about being flatmates, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, so this is nothing new, but I suppose I'm putting a different angle on it today because I'm going to give you really different ways to begin creating some changes before you perhaps even need to speak to a coach, a psychologist, a therapist. There's a lot that you can do at home, and that's the whole big driving force of why I've got this empowered marriage, which is actually now on YouTube as well. If you're watching this, is to create a lot of your own change yourself. So today is all about identifying your needs, identifying what it is that you need to bring that passion back into the relationship, to ignite it, to ignite a spark. I'm actually in the process. I've completed it. I've just got to get it out online, the online world. Online program called Ignite, and it's about bringing the spark back into your relationship. That passion, that joy, that fun that you used to have just like when you were dating. However, it's gone. There's not a lot of spark happening, and you're wondering, you're looking at each other and going, holy hell, we're like flatmates, we're like roomies, we're like 2 ships passing in the night. You getting the idea? So that's what I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to give you 8 suggestions of how you can start bringing some passion back into your life. So what is it that we need? Let's first of all talk about the female and the male. A female is a bit like a slow combustion stove. She needs a little bit of time to get the sparks and the desire and to ignite. Now, women who particularly are stressed, there's none of that going on. Your to-do list, I've got to do the kids, I've got to do the house, I've got to take Johnny to softball, it's blah 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 blah. And when it comes to actually your relationship and creating any intimacy and closeness and passion, that's not as easy. Look, men, they tend to be a little bit more easily aroused than women. That takes time. It's not wrong or right, it just is what it is. So I'm going to talk about different ways that you can start creating some spark. When you're out in the wilderness and you're getting that fire going, and you got the sticks and you're grinding them like this, and then you might initially get a little bit of a spark. It's a bit like your relationship. How are we going to start creating some excitement and some passion back into your relationship? Because you had it, however, you may be non-existent, or there may be just a tiny little bit going on. So my number 1, have fun. How do you have fun? I want you to ask yourself that question. First of all, bring it back to yourself. Don't throw it over and project it onto your partner. How do you have fun? We are all different. For some, gosh, how long have we got to say what fun is for some people? Some people, it can be the adventurous spirit. They've got to get out on their motorbike or on their bike or their fast car or jump out of an aeroplane. Fun for others could be snorkeling, could be down into the water, could be fishing. For others, it could be going to yoga. Fun could be connecting with friends. Fun could be dancing to music in the kitchen with the kids. Fun is endless. So I want you to ask your question. Bring it back to yourself first before you even bring your partner into it. What is fun? What is fun for you? How did I used to have fun? I love the work I do because I hear from so many different people how they do fun. And there are some really unique ways of how people do fun. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be, packing a little picnic and, going down to the water and having a swim or having a nudie swim. It's endless. So, actually, I'd love to hear how you have fun. Get on my Instagram, get on my Facebook. This podcast, how will you be finding it? That'll be on Spotify or iTunes. A little bit harder to give how you have fun, but I would love to hear how you have fun. So, that's my number one. This is how you're going to keep passion alive, is how can I bring in fun? My number two is do something daring. And again, how long is a piece of string? Doing something daring for one person can be totally different for another. Go back to when you had passion running through your veins, when you were motivated, when you were turned on, when you had that going on. What daring things were you doing? What was going on for you? Bring it back to yourself first, and then as a couple actually bring in a discussion as to how were you two daring. For some people, they talk about, they travel the world. They, a bit difficult at the moment with COVID, but put the knapsack on the back and daring, going out into the world and traveling and being spontaneous and hitchhiking. And it's what is daring to you. So number one is fun. Number two is daring. My third is flirt. Get the tension building. When did the two of you last do that? When did you last, really connect on that level? And it may have been a while, because this is why you're listening to this podcast, because you are not feeling turned on. So it's when it was working, why was it working? You would have flirted. You would have done little looks, little nudges, little touches, little notes, little chocolates, little beautiful things to let your partner know that actually I find you attractive and I want you. So it's getting that going again. It's creating that desire and bring it back into your relationship. So that's my number three. Number four, talk more. It's very sad to say that by the time people come and work with me, whether it's online or in my room, they're not talking, they're not communicating. And it is extremely important in a long-term relationship is that you have absolute transparency. We have this whole inner world going on, and particularly for people who have perhaps had a fair bit of trauma and you haven't healed that trauma, what happens is you live in the head. You just live in the head and you got this whole thing going on, and you have walls and you live from that false self. Very, very hard if you're on the receiving end of that. If you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't talk, who's introverted and lives in their head, you can make assumptions and you can take things personally, but it's not going to create desire and closeness and fun. So it's begin to find ways where you can talk more and where you can connect and see if that helps. So my number five suggestions to keep that passion alive is make nice gestures. Nice is such a limp word, isn't it? What could be a different way of putting that? It's gestures. It could be as simple as making a cup of coffee for your partner, or they come in from work and you can see they're tired. Look, You know, how about a back massage? It's just little gestures. You would have heard of the 5 love languages. What is your partner's love language? How do they feel loved? It's what we tend to do is when the relationship isn't as in tune and you are becoming more like flatmates, it's all about what about me. You're not thinking about your partner and perhaps what they need. So what's a gesture that you could do right now? It could be ring your partner home thinking about you. How you going? How's your day? You mentioned yesterday that you had a sore foot. How's that going? Take some interest. Because if you're not talking, you just start to lose interest. All right, my number 6. I want you to think about your surroundings. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. When I mean think about your surroundings, what I mean by that is, okay, I want you to, in your head, go to your bedroom. Does your bedroom create, intimacy and desire, and, you've got beautiful linen and crisp sheets and cushions and doonas and candles and incense and pictures and colour, and it's this beautiful sanctuary? Or perhaps you have children on a mattress who sleep in your bedroom, or perhaps you have pictures of your children on the wall, or perhaps you've got packing boxes that you haven't unpacked. Perhaps, are you getting the idea? There's a lot of clutter. There's, I'm not really worried about the rest of the house. However, if you want to create a relationship that's turned on, where it's intimate, you've got to create a bedroom that is lush and a sanctuary. And I think you're getting the idea. So perhaps the two of you have a look at your bedroom. How can you begin creating some new energy and make it a bedroom that you want to be in? And use all your senses. So what can you see? All right, there's a bit of clutter around. I need to get rid of that. Smells, beautiful oils or candles or incense, but get in some scents. And then touch, particularly around beautiful linen or satin sheets, or just create that tactile type of environment. So you know where I'm going. I'm going with the senses, the touch, what you feel, what you see, what you hear, and create a beautiful, glorious sanctuary, so that this can begin to work towards creating a relationship that is more intimate than what you got now. Okay, number 7, touch. And I've put a little note there, oxytocin. So this is a hormone that you can't get by talking. This is a hormone that occurs in the body. You can't manufacture this. It's touch. It's slowing right down and creating touch. And if you are in a relationship where there is a wall up, or you've both got walls up, this is going to be a little bit harder. And this is where sometimes seeing a therapist, seeing a coach, coming and working with me either online or in my room, is to start creating touch in your relationship. Because if you're feeling a bit like flatmates, roomies, best friends, but there's not a lot of touch, that is going to be very, very difficult to go long term. So touch is really, really important. Slowing it right down within yourself first. If you're with someone who's got a wall up, then you're going to have to do a few different steps before you can even get to the touch, because if the wall's up and they're not letting you in, it's a little bit difficult. Number 8, have realistic expectations. And what I mean by that is not what you may look outside of your world. You might go onto Facebook, you might go onto Instagram, you might connect with friends, and you look at their relationships and, oh look, they look amazing and they have sex so many times a week. How much of that do you know to be true? How much of it is an assumption? No one has a Hollywood relationship. Nobody. It takes work, it takes commitment, it takes time, and putting the energy into that. So I've given you 8 suggestions to keep the passion alive, but now I want to go to a really important part of this. Is a rock solid relationship is where you let go of the expectations and where you let go of the judgment, and learning that it actually begins with yourself first. For you to be in a relationship where it is unconditional, you've got to begin with yourself first. You know that the global divorce rate is extremely high. In fact, it's huge. And so it is so important, I think the key with all of this, and what I really want to get across in this podcast, that it is not your partner's job to fill any emptiness or void inside of you. It is not your partner's job to fill your cup up. It is not your partner's job to make you feel good and feel happy and feel wanted and feel loved. It is actually your job. And if you're in a relationship, and if each person can take 100% responsibility for their well-being and how they feel, then your relationship can begin to change. It can begin to be more fluid and to not be hitting up against each other because you've got expectations of what you're requiring from your partner. And it all comes back to each individual person healing their wounded parts, their parts of themselves that are false, our false selves. That's probably a really good way to put it. We have all created masks and false selves to be loved. And we look outside of ourselves. We are a society that is very commercialized, and, we look out there to get what we need to feel better. However, in a relationship, which is the most incredible experience to be able to explore yourself, because your partner will trigger you. Your partner will say things or do things that get on your goat. However, it's for you to then go inside and to do your work around that and to understand, where's this come from? Why am I feeling like this? A lot of the time your partner will mirror back things that need to be healed within yourself. That's another way to put it. The temptation is to run away, to avoid them. I've talked numerous times about the fight, flight and freeze, and what happens though is that creates a distance between you. However, if each partner can live very consciously and take ownership of their triggers, and know that it is not your job to make your partner happy, but it is all of your job to make you happy, that then changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. So look, I'd love you as a couple to discuss the 8 suggestions that I've made. This is in a blog form, so you can go onto powerofchange.com.au and you can find this in a blog, print it up, sit down as a couple. There is so much you can do yourselves as a couple. And it's also in a relationship for it to go long term. And if you want to get out of the flatmate phase and get back into passion and connection and closeness and love making, then you've got to make your relationship a priority, and you've got to put the energy into it, and you've got to start having some discussions. So this is a big topic. I've only touched very much on the outside, but look, I really hope this is helpful. There's so much that you can do yourselves as a couple, but I think the key and the biggest thing that I would leave you with is that you got to love yourself first. You've got to have that relationship within yourself first before you can have that close, intimate relationship and let someone in. Let someone really see you and see all your shadow parts and your dark parts, because you've got to love them first before your partner can. So anyway, on that note, you can find me on powerofchange.com.au, and hope this has been helpful. I really look forward to doing another podcast very, very soon. And email me or go on to Instagram, the Helen Harrison, and let me know that you're out there. Love feedback, love answering questions. If you've got any questions or if you've got any ideas for a podcast moving forward, let me know. And so I really hope that you enjoy living in your empowered marriage, in your empowered life.